Welcome back to Mythic Sky Storytime. I'm Dr. Laura Todd, spiritually oriented psychological astrologer. This is the fourth show in my new series, Cosmic Costumes. In this episode, I'll discuss the home body water sign of Cancer. Cancer is the fourth sign in the zodiac and begins on the first day of summer in the Northern Hemisphere. The word Cancer itself in the context of astrology is Greek for crab. And the image of the crab is a creature who carries its home on its back. The glyph that we use, the symbol that is used to draw the sign of Cancer, looks like the number 69 on its side, or is representative of the crab's claws. And every sign in the zodiac is associated with a planet. For Cancer, we look not to a planet, but to a luminary, to the moon. Now, as I've discussed in previous episodes, every sign of the zodiac is associated with an element: fire, earth, air, or in the case of Cancer, water. Cancer is the first of the water signs. The other water signs being Scorpio and Pisces. And water signs in general are associated with feelings, with emotion. They're the receptive signs. They tend to be the more sensitive signs and intuitive and moody signs. They're the signs that are the most impacted by the emotional well-being or lack thereof of those around them. And with Cancer, we now have come to the point where we're getting a second manifestation of a mode. So the modes, cardinal, fixed, and mutable, are also aspects or qualities of signs, and every sign is an element and every sign is a mode. And with Cancer, we get the first repeated mode of the series in the zodiac. So just as Aries is a cardinal sign because it launches spring, Cancer is a cardinal sign in launching summer. And the cardinal signs in general, regardless of the element that they fall in, are initiatory because they launch the seasons. It's about beginnings and starting. There's a seeking quality to all cardinal signs, a beginning of things, because it is this launching, initiatory, beginning energy. In that, there can be a sort of outreaching, a reaching forward, a striving energy that comes about in these cardinal signs. They're more action-oriented than some of the other signs. And within that, they can be goal-oriented. It doesn't mean that they achieve the goal, but there's this vision, this forward-thinking, forward-striving energy that the cardinal signs possess. But that can then lead to overreaching, being overly active, being unbalanced in how the energy is used, because it can be so striving that it's not very measured in how the energy is used. While on some level that unrestrained energy has its benefits, it can also be vulnerable to depletion and being overly reactive and overly extending oneself. In that always forward, always moving energy, because it isn't necessarily straightforward in its movement, but it's always moving. It's not pausing for any amount of time. And with Cancer, we then merge this cardinality, this starting energy, this initiatory energy with that element of water, of that emotional, sensitive, receptive quality of the water with this initiatory energy. And the blending of those two qualities is then what is reserved for the sign of Cancer. And so just as the previous signs I've discussed have key phrases and key words associated with them, the key phrase that we've given to Cancer is "I feel." In part because it's that first water sign. It's the first sign that's really tied with an emotional experience of the world. And some of the other qualities, some of the other key phrases and terms that we have given to Cancer, we've seen related to this sign, are emotions themselves, feelings. Cancer, as one of the early parts of the zodiac, is tied to our early environment with our family, our ancestors. It's where we come from, our lineage. And therefore, our childhood can show up in wherever we have Cancer, or part of Cancer can be representative of our childhood because it is that early imprinting emotionally that then impacts how we emotionally engage with the world as we move on into adulthood. Cancer, when it's out of balance, can be needy. It needs to be needed and likes to give in that way. It loves to nurture and loves to be nurtured. Cancer as a sign is also very much about our inner space and inner child. That's part of that early child development, part of that ancestral quality to Cancer of where we come from, our core foundation. It's often associated because of its connection with the moon, that I'll get into in a moment more deeply, than with the mother as well as an archetype. Cancer can struggle with neglect then, part of that needing to be nurtured energy. The other side of that coin can manifest in experiencing neglect and not getting one's needs met, can be a unhealthy or a flipped manifestation of this archetype. Part of how Cancer can manifest too is as the protector. So in that mother energy, it can be that fiercely protective mother, that mama bear energy of protecting its young at any cost. There is an aspect of Cancer that has that with the crab having its pinchers, of being very protective of itself and those that it loves. There's a quality too then with Cancer that is linked with that sense of security, with this idea of it carrying its home on its back, that needing to be able to retreat when needed, that security being very important. Physical, emotional security, not so much security from a financial perspective. We'd see that much more in Taurus, but that sense of emotional safety is really more where that sense of security shows up with Cancer. Cancer can also be touchy, right? And being sensitive, being emotionally sensitive, being vulnerable to being hurt emotionally is very common when there's a lot of Cancer that shows up in somebody's chart. And physiologically, Cancer governs the womb in women and the breasts in both genders because of its link with mother as an archetype. That's part of why we've given Cancer those parts of the body, is that is so predominantly tied to motherhood. So as I had said, with Cancer and looking at a planet or luminary associated with each sign, with Cancer we see the moon. And Cancer is the only sign associated with the moon. The moon goes around the zodiac every 27 and change days, right? We've rounded it up to 28. Technically, it's 27 days, 7 hours, 43 minutes, and 11 and a half seconds. So we round that up to 28. And then that breaks down with 12 signs over that period of time. Then it's roughly in a sign for 2.5 days. And the day of the week that we attribute to the moon, or that the moon is associated with, is Monday, Moon Day. Again, as I've said in previous episodes, much more direct in some respects, looking at it in Espanol, lunes, luna being the moon in Espanol. And so in astrology, what we have seen the moon to be representative of is our feelings, our moods, our temperament, our emotional experience of the world. Again, these are all very linked to and likened to how we see Cancer. In our personal charts, the moon can represent our mother or the parent that held the more maternal role regardless of their gender. The moon also is an embodiment more broadly of the mother archetype. It's linked with our ability to nurture and be nurtured. Again, we see this parallel to the sign of Cancer. It's our internal reality. right? The moon has no light of its own. It's only reflecting the light of the sun. So it's our internal experience of the world. It is the part of us that is repetitive and cyclical, like the phases of the moon. The moon in our charts, or the moon in astrology, has this cyclical quality to it, this phasal quality to how the archetype of the moon engages with the world. And so now looking at Cancer through the lens of psychological development, child development, but really just human development more broadly, because as we move further through the zodiac, we will get well beyond childhood. We now move into the realm of the early teen, right? So in Taurus, we were seeing the little kids. In Gemini, we were getting preteens. We now have the early teen years. Think more sort of like 13, 14, 15 period of time. And so like with the sign of Cancer, like this age of development, there's a moodiness to this stage of development. There's big emotional swings that children of this age group have that are tied to their development, their physical development, impacting the physiological experience, their chemical balance or imbalance as they go through puberty, impacting their ability to emotionally self-regulate. This can be a time of sometimes even being less engaged with the world, of retreating into oneself like the crab crawling in its shell. That's part of this internal energy, this not really maybe connecting with friends, but retreating from emotional engagement with parents or adults in their lives. Can be a common phenomenon during these early teen years. As we see with the sign of Cancer being linked with the womb and breast, this is the period of time, or early teens is when girls start their menstrual cycle. And even if they started a little younger than 13, it's when it becomes actually a regular cycle. When girls start menstruating, it's not actually super regular. But by their early teens, that 28-day cycle that is, again, reflective of the moon becomes more of a constant in their life. And also during these early teen years, as we are growing up, there's this push-pull of wanting to grow up and individuate and be independent and have freedom, but still wanting to have a home base. And that, again, I think we see reflective in the crab carrying its home on its back, quite literally. So now moving into storying, as this is Mythic Sky Storytime. Looking at the Cancerian myths, there's many to choose from. There's the idea of mothers, story of mothers and mothering are in all cultures all around the world. And the idea of mother itself, we even tie to the earth. Mother Earth. It is the beginning. She is the beginning of the beginning. This idea of motherhood and mothering. For Mother Earth, like the sign of Cancer, she nurtures us by providing us the sustenance for survival. It's part of why we honor her in that way. And I happen to be recording this on Earth Day, which is a day we honor Mother Earth, or we hope to honor her at any rate. And although the mother goddess is one of the oldest archetypes, archaeologically, it's some of the oldest archaeological evidence of ritual that we have found are artifacts reflective of the Mother Earth archetype of the sacred feminine. For the purpose of this particular show, I'm going to talk about the Greek goddess Demeter, as she is one of the primary mother goddesses in Greek mythology. One of the things that's unique to Cancer in its nurturing quality is that it's very much about a one-on-one interaction. It's not as much about caretaking for whole communities or societies and large groups of people or a whole tribe. It's much more about that dyadic exchange between two individuals, or mother and child. And so we see this very clearly in the story of Demeter. She is the Greek goddess of grain and the harvest, and very much the protector and nurturer of the natural world, again, somewhat tied to Mother Earth. She wasn't Mother Earth itself. That was her grandmother, Gaia, but she is linked with caretaking or charged with caring for the natural world. And Demeter had 3 children, but the one that we know most, that's most widely known, is her daughter Persephone. And Demeter doted on Persephone. She loved her daughter profoundly, to the extent that one might even, in some versions of the myth, see her as a smothering mother. They were so intertwined and potentially enmeshed. She poured all of her love into this one child, despite the fact she had 2 older children. And this one child, she was beautiful, she was kind, she was playful, and she deeply loved her mother. And one day, when the 2 were spending time in a garden, Persephone wandered off. And she was in her teens, her early teens, again, paralleling this idea of our psychological development. And so one day, Persephone wandered off in the garden, and when her mother's back was turned, she disappeared. And turning back around to ask her daughter a question, suddenly Demeter couldn't find her anywhere. And she frantically searches for her daughter, calling her name, running through the garden, all to no avail. She's weeping and crying and screaming her name, to no response, until finally her cries catch the ear of Hecate, who is an ancient triple goddess. She's often depicted even as having 3 faces, representing the different phases of a woman's life or different phases of the moon. And she, as this ancient maternal feminine goddess, agrees to help Demeter find her daughter. And Hecate was one of the few deities who was freely able to travel between the worlds. Really, she and Hermes, or Mercury, are the only 2 gods who can travel between the underworld and Olympus without needing permission from the rulers of those parts of existence. And in her ability to travel between worlds, Hecate discovers that Persephone has been pulled into the underworld by Hades, the ruler, the god of the underworld. And together, the 2 goddesses go to Zeus, the king of the gods, and also Persephone's father, to ask him to intervene and convince his brother Hades to release the young woman and return her to her mother. But Zeus refuses to get involved. Shell-shocked, with grief and rage, Demeter wanders in the fog, ignoring her duties. And slowly, the natural world begins to wither and become more and more barren. And finally, as the world and all its creatures begin to die due to the lack of Demeter's attention to the natural world, Zeus intervenes and convinces his brother to release Persephone. However, there's a caveat. For while she was in the underworld, Persephone ate 6 pomegranate seeds. As a result, she is required to spend half the year with Hades, and half the year she can spend with her mother. This story has been part of how the Greeks explained the 4 seasons. For while Persephone is reunited with her mother, the world is blossoming and blooming and full of growth. Cancer launches summer. But while she's in the underworld, the world begins to retreat and die, reflecting Demeter's returned grief. And then it starts again. And part of how we can see this story reflecting the sign of Cancer is that the cyclical nature of the signs is reflective in the ebb and flow of emotional experience. And like the movements of the tides, as they come in and go out, sometimes our emotions are big, sometimes they are small. The degree to which Demeter is grieving has different impacts on the world that she is governing. And sometimes it has really big impact, and sometimes it's more subtle. And sometimes it's joyous and blooming and exuberant, and other times it is contracted. And it's that ebb and flow, that give and take energy that is reflective of that Cancerian experience that can be the crab out of its shell, walking, or contracted and closed into its shell. Okay, so now is the time for us to shift into our Cancerian meditation. So as you prepare for this, and you feel free to pause when you need, you'll want to find somewhere where you can sit comfortably, either with legs crossed or in a chair with your feet flat. But ideally somewhere where you can sit with your spine supported and straight. We'll begin with some belly breaths. Connect with your chakra system before we move into a guided meditation. For the belly breaths, you'll want to inhale through your nose and exhale through the mouth. And we'll do 4 belly breaths. And I'll do the counting for you. So, with your eyes closed, and sitting comfortably, you'll want to take a deep breath in through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold at the top. And release completely. 1, out of your mouth. 2, 3, 4, and pause. And inhale completely. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. And exhale completely. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Inhale again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale completely. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. And one last time, inhaling deeply. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. And exhaling completely. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Okay, now returning to a normal rhythm of breathing for yourself, but still breathing deeply, but at an count and in a way that feels comfortable. We're going to move into connecting with the chakra system, these energy centers that run up and down the body. And so on your next inhale, you're going to bring your attention to your root chakra, your base chakra, located at the root, the base of the spine. This is the center that grounds you, connects you to Pachamama, to Mother Earth. That is where we get our discipline and help keep us present in our present moment, in the present time, keeping us engaged with the world. And on your next inhale, bring your attention to sacral chakra, second chakra. This is a center connected to our ability to be receptive and directive. It is a center of power, located near the reproductive organs. It is linked with this transformative power and change. You can transmute energy here. And on your next inhale, bringing your attention to solar plexus, the third chakra, just above the belly button. This is your sun center. This too is where a sense of power, where we radiate energy from. It's linked with our emotional experience with the world. How we emotionally engage from a place of strength. Our sense of self, sun, center. And on your next inhale, bring your attention to heart chakra, found in the center of the chest. It is the center of love and compassion. It is the center between the upper and lower chakras. It is the center of our bodies, in that sense, center of the chakra system. It is how we love and receive love, our ability to access compassion and be compassionate towards others. It's also where wounds live, around the heart, around our value. Heart center, heart-centered self. And on your next inhale, bring your attention to throat chakra. In your throat, it is the center associated with communication, with speaking and listening, of confidence to speak your truth and be receptive and listen to the truths of others. And on your next inhale, bring your attention to your third eye chakra, between your eyebrows. This is the center of vision and clarity. We were able to see the truth without the filter of ego or intellectual bias. And on your next inhale, bring your attention to crown chakra, located just at the top of the head. This is the center that connects you to the divine, to God, Goddess, Spirit, Universe, Source, whatever your language is for the divine. It is from here that you are tethered to that oneness, to that which is greater than any one of us. And on your next inhale, you want to bring that divine light, that connection to God, Goddess, Spirit, divine, the sacred, through the central channel, through the chakra system, And envision gold light coming through from the crown, going out through your third eye, clearing away any cobwebs, any fogginess. And as you continue to breathe in your own rhythm, continue to bring this light through the chakra system, through the throat chakra, clearing away, healing wounds where you did not feel brave enough to speak up, to speak your truth, or things you've said that you've regretted, where in a time of confusion or pain, maybe you said something that later you wished had been said in a different way. Let this golden light heal those wounds. Continuing down the channel, continuing down the chakras, bringing that golden light from the throat into the heart, letting it radiate, shining like a flashlight out of the heart chakra, illuminating all the darkness so you are able to see all the love that is available to you. And on your next inhale, bringing that light down into solar plexus, healing emotional wounds, healing those parts of you that have struggled to be your radiant self. Continuing down, bringing that light into sacral chakra. Let this golden light bring into balance your receptive and directive sides. For both are valuable and have times when they are needed. And continuing down the chakra system, bring this golden light into your root chakra, your base chakra, as you now tether the divine to the earth, your highest self to your most grounded earth connected self, feeling this continued shaft of golden light moving up and down and up and down throughout your body, knowing that this light is here for you always, and radiating in and around you like a cocoon. You are surrounded in gold light as we move in to the guided meditation, knowing that as you move into it, you are completely protected by this circle of light, by this cocoon of gold from the divine. And so now bringing your attention to your mind's eye, your third eye. See yourself walking along a beach as a full moon shines brightly above you. And walking on the damp sand, you notice and begin walking to the rhythm of the waves as they break on the shore. And walking by the light of the moon, you see ahead of you a woman dressed in white, dancing among the waves. And as you get closer, she comes out of the sea to greet you. And without introduction, you know she is the manifestation of mothering and nurturing, a being as old as time. And as you reach her, she embraces you in her arms, holding you close as you exhale deeply, feeling every part of your body relax in her arms. You know, without it being spoken, that she has you, for she is the personification of nurturing support. And when you feel ready, you release yourself from her arms, but still standing just in front of her. You look deeply into her soulful, sparkling eyes as the moonlight reflects upon them. And she takes your hands as she asks you if you have any questions. And standing with her on this moonlit beach, you ask if she has any suggestions for how you can express your emotions, whatever they are, in a healthy way, whether you're angry or joyful, sad or frustrated. What does she recommend would be helpful for you to be more connected with your emotions and express them in a productive, healthy way? And if you're ever confused by her response, just ask for clarification whenever you feel it's needed. And as you continue to stay in dialogue, see if she has any suggestions of how you can self-regulate. If you feel emotionally overwhelmed, how can you bring yourself back into a place of calm? Or conversely, if you feel yourself cut off from connecting with your emotions, what does she recommend would be helpful to alleviate those barriers that you can put up, those walls that you may build around you? To be safe, how can you be emotive and vulnerable and still safe? What does she recommend? Are there better ways for you to nurture yourself? As you know, self-care is important, but perhaps she's got some suggestions of things you could do that would feel better. That you'd be more receptive to. And perhaps she has some suggestions of ways you could nurture others differently. How could you nurture those in your life that you care for deeply, but still honor their autonomy? Are there things you could be doing differently that would be more enjoyable for both of you, for your loved ones, and for you? Let any other questions come up organically, and again ask for clarification whenever needed. And as you sense the conversation is coming to a close, Ask her how you can stay connected with her, with this deeply nurturing energy, when there are times that you feel it needed. How can you reconnect with this lovely woman on the beach? And before you turn to go, embrace her again, soaking up all the nurturing that she has to share, and thank her for her insight. And ask her how you could honor her for her help today. What reciprocity would she appreciate? And turning to go, you walk slowly back the way you've come, as the full moon, now low in the sky, reflects off the sea and illuminates your way home. And sitting here for as long as you need, when you're ready, slowly move your fingers and toes, bringing yourself back into your room. Back into your body. Now, I recommend, if you have a journal, or perhaps you just want to record it on your phone, you take some notes of what this moon goddess shared with you on your beach walk. Thank you for joining me on this 4th show. Please like or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to learn more about my work, please visit my website, mythicsky.com.